And now, coming up on Radio Flange Goblet, it's the After-Movie Diners New Year special, featuring Jeffrey Palmer as the Marquis de Sade.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After-Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross. Support us at patreon.com/After-Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
Well, hello there, and although the world may be crumbling around you, the two vast demons of ego and stupidity are ceremoniously performing lewd sexual acts on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and while you may be soiled with the effluent of the relentless tide of banality and cum shots which pass for modern culture, you have still found time to find, download, and listen to this ridiculous excuse for a podcast that is strapping on a half-assed smile and a quite sizable and wobbly dildo, ready to infuse your life with jollity, knowledge, and passion, but most likely will barely muster a stale and inevitable cheese guff. So welcome to another special New Year's episode of the After Movie Diner. On our panel this year is, to my right, a lover of panels, dare I say he's a panel enthusiast, who at the age of 8 discovered he could detach and reattach his genitals with little to no chafing, and so now tours college campuses doing his impression of the famous magician and eyebrow magnate David Copperfield. He likes sweaters with bunny rabbits on them. He is known to pluck the magic pixie banjo to lure goat ladies into his mountaintop nest, and several times a week he runs around to the back of his local liquor store and amongst the filthy dumpsters tickles otters. It's the young buck himself, celebrated author and cuddler of the pudding midgets, Andrew Buckley.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. That was a lovely intro.
And then in the center, staring at me with a gaze that is both achingly nonchalant and aggressively erotic, he was born in a large candied egg in a shopping mall in Idaho to a Mr. and Mrs. Gussett, who both made their fortunes by manufacturing and selling a line of incredibly tight swimwear with the crotch and titty area removed. When they realized how much meat he would consume, they gave him up for adoption by placing him on a dump site next to the rusting refrigerators and a vat of alligator vomit discarded by an extruder apprentice who was down on his luck. There he survived for some time on strands of pelican fat before being taken under the wing of a porno theatre owner who was on his way to have his wings removed, as they hampered his wanking ability. Growing up surrounded by violent nudity, his encyclopedic knowledge of nipples was employed by the Clinton White House to quell a secret uprising in Nicaragua. For his trouble, he was given a ceremonial gold pizza and shipped off to Florida to sell tank tops to German tourists with pictures of scary ventriloquist dummies on them. You know him, you love him, and no matter where you are in the world, you can lick your thumb, stick it in the air, and sense in which direction his penis is floating. It's the one, it's the only, Moses Porne.
You know, that is surprisingly accurate. Like, I feel like you went to my Wikipedia page for that one.
I did. I went deep.
That was a deep Google search.
It was some deep cuts. Plus, I phoned your mother. And the last member of the panel, but definitely not the least, as we all know his vastly pendulous gonads can kill an emu at 3 paces, a gentleman who was once awarded the Nobel Girth Prize for indecent acts performed on a tuba, a man who in 1986 invented a device for removing the buttock hair from salamanders without waking them up, and a guy who has only been on this panel for so many years because he won an arm wrestling and pudding competition against Sally Fields at a charity bazaar hosted by a vinegar conglomerate in Chad who were trying to attract international attention to their weirdly domed heads. He owns a fleet of penguins he's trained to arouse the elderly because of his public platform of Oldies Need Orgasms Too, that last year raised over £1 million for a truckload of Last of the Summer Wine-themed Sibians, which he personally distributed to nursing homes in the north of England, and then stays hiding in the bushes with a small pair of opera glasses to observe the fun. He has a degree from the University of Tight Thongs, a small tin cup from the Whiffleworth School of Pinching Badgers, and a black belt in labias from dodgy Colonel Dennis Flange, owner of all the Welks, a cheeky, lovable hobo who refuses to leave his attic. It's the Doctor of Action himself, Dr. Paul Crowson.
Thank you. You know what? I got my DNA ancestry test results back, and it was exactly what you just said.
It was that was the exact printout that they gave. It's so detailed
Absolutely.
these days.
To the letter.
To the absolute letter, to the little fleck of spunk. right down to the tiny amount. It's fantastic what they can do with science these days. And gentlemen, it's another New Year's show. We have Andrew this year stepping in for the AWOL and sadly missed Matt Payne. So Andrew, do you feel responsibility? Do you feel the magnitude of that, or could you not really give a shit?
Well, you didn't fucking tell me that. Now I feel it. I didn't feel it before. Now I feel the pressure.
Well,
you've got some big underpants to fill, man.
Yes, you do, dude.
That's unfair. I can't fill those. There's no way I can fill those.
Wait, just a minute. Matt's all right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as we know.
As far as we know, we just haven't heard from him in like a year.
that doesn't bode well. Surely,
No.
right?
But
It's a cursed chair you're sitting in, Andrew.
you're like the drummer in Spinal Tap.
This is very uncomfortable now. But yeah, of course, good.
Excellent. Just let me ask you, Andrew, do you have any pork-based products either near you, in you, or in the fridge? Like
This is very important. Yes, very important question.
Any bacon or ham or anything like that?
Do I need to get them? I mean, I could probably get something from the fridge. I mean,
We would suggest that Matt used to like to record with at least half a glazed ham down the front of his trousers.
I mean, I could probably get some turkey sausage. Would that work?
I don't know. I don't know about turkey sausage. Is there pork in turkey sausage? I suppose it depends.
There isn't. I'm not sure there's turkey in turkey sausage.
Exactly. Lacking in pork products, but not lacking in charm, wit, and bonhomie. It's the wonderful Andrew Buckley. And what have you been up to recently, sir? What should we inform the listening severals all about?
Oh, good God. Let me see. I published another book this year. I kind of capped off my middle grade fictional series called Hair in All the Wrong Places.
And that's your 47th book published in the last 3 years to date. Is that correct?
Indeed, yes. I just never sleep, and I just write and write and write. Yeah, it's been pretty. I'm pretty happy with it all. It's my sixth published novel, I think, and I've got 2 more kind of on the go. And I've been doing a lot of public speaking.
You slacker.
I know. It's terrible. I've been speaking at schools all over the place. Even took a trip down into the States to Seattle, and I'm heading back there again this year. I'm going to Utah, and then I'm going to Vegas to speak at some conferences and schools down there. So I'm real chatty these days.
That's the first time anybody's intentionally gone to Utah.
and
accidentally ended there.
And intentionally gone to Vegas to talk at schools.
I was like, do they have schools in Vegas? They probably don't have schools in Vegas. No kids in Vegas, right?
Though they actually do. Having lived there, they do actually have quite a few schools in Vegas.
Yeah, all they teach is baccarat.
Yeah, they teach Pai Gow poker and
I've got like Stellin, a 94-year-old Brooklynite.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, sweetie, I can teach you all the tricks of the trade.
they also teach advanced pole work to the women in the class. Yeah.
And some of the men.
And some of the men. Of course, it's in this day and age, gender is not an option if you want to grease up and work the pole.
New year, new me.
It is all available. Yeah, it's all available to everyone these days, and quite right too. Who doesn't love to see a big, sweaty, hairy sack running up and down a metal pole in your local strip joint? And Doc, how's life been for you? We still leave the 100 episode of Dr. Action, the Kick-Ass Kid, hanging in the distance for people to wonder, will it ever actually happen? But Doc,
you know what? I think in the next 5 years you might see it.
Yeah, we might see it. We might actually do that 100th episode. But how have you been, sir? How is life? How's being a father, a husband, owner of a dog? What's it all like?
It's all right.
It's okay.
It's not bad. I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. 3 smashing kids, a knockout wife, dog's brilliant. Watching films, yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, not the films we chose to watch, but
who watched films for this?
Yeah, right. I think the first year when we did, was it the Indiana Jones thing? I think you bothered to watch the 3 films or the 4 films, but since then, have you watched any of the? Every year you watch less and less.
I tell you what. I'm going to make you feel really bad now because I've tried to watch them all, and I was about to finish number 2. I had to go and help my granddad up. He fell over.
Oh, sorry about that.
And so I would have finished it.
You would have finished it.
I know that sounds like I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to. I've made that up. I'm not. But I have done my best.
Terrible excuse.
I've done my best.
Terrible excuse. I was going to bring him here. Put him on the microphone and go, tell him you fell over.
What I think, Doc, is when you fail to do anywhere near the task required of you, I wouldn't say that's doing. I wouldn't announce to the world that that's you doing your best, because then people will. Yeah,
because I mean, I'll be honest. I've had plenty of notice.
Right. Yeah. Weeks.
You know what I'm like.
Well, I don't know. 2 months. Is 2 months plenty of notice? Really? I mean, come on. 2 months.
Is 2 months plenty of notice? What you need to...
2 months is a lot more notice than we've had in the last 2 years. So.
Yeah.
Are you saying you guys did an Indiana Jones version of this particular show, and I got invited to the John Ritter version
yes.
of the show?
You see what?
Congratulations.
See the
first. At least you didn't have to sit through Andrew McCarthy or Roger Moore, okay? So,
right. Well, no, the Roger Moore episode was fantastic.
Now,
I know it was
Roger
fantastic. I'm
good.
just saying there was just 900 movies.
Yeah, no, the one that was the most painful was the early George Clooney. That was the most painful episode we've done, because all 4 of those films were pretty abysmal.
Yeah.
Claire wouldn't let me near the tablets cabinet.
Oh no!
For a week after that.
I was
Return of the Killer Tomatoes and Red Surf.
Yeah. Well, you didn't watch Red Surf.
No, I did. I watched half of it.
Oh, was it?
I watched half of it.
Half of it.
And then I got pulled away.
Yeah.
And
because your granddad fell over again.
Did you watch the first half or the second
half? I watched just the middle.
Just the middle there.
The middle 30 minutes,
yeah.
Paul's a connoisseur of the second act slump. That's all he cares about.
That's all he knows. He only likes the bit in the middle where it really drags. That's what he really likes.
The bit with the intermission was always my favourite.
Always the bit. Always the bit. And so this year we can expect you to have knowledge about one of these films. Is that what I'm understanding?
I've got knowledge of none of them.
Okay.
I know a bit of trivia about one of them.
Okay, fair enough then. That's about it.
See, I don't feel bad. I only had to do better than Paul, so I watched 2 1/4 of these movies, which I figured was enough to do better
You've
than
published
Paul.
6 novels, mate. You're already just better than me.
The funny thing is I watched 5 of these films, so...
Overage, sir.
Yeah, and Mo, what about you? How many did you end up watching?
I watched the 4 required ones.
The main ones, yeah.
Yeah, the main ones. And I intended on watching a 5th, but fell asleep halfway through the one I was watching last night. So I'm like, oh shit, I have to watch 2.5 today now. So it's been a long morning. Yeah, it's been quite a slog. I mean, I watched some of these multiples of these in 1 or 2 days. And it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. No. Every year, see, this is what kind of blows my mind. So Andrew, just to bring you up to speed, the first year we ever did a New Year's special, it was actually me, Mo, and Scott Toomey. I think it's only me and Mo who have been on every single New Year episode. But it was me, Mo, and Scott Toomey, and we talked about not guilty pleasures, but movies that we like that in general are considered not very good, but movies that we cherish. And then I think I remember exactly nothing about that episode.
No, but it is it's the episode with the Ellen Barkin foreskin.
Oh yes, right. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, the Ellen Barkin forehead.
Not foreskin. The Ellen
forehead leather. Yes, exactly.
The Ellen Barkin forehead leather, not Ellen Barkin's foreskin.
Is that a thing?
It is now.
It is now.
And then the second one I think we did was the Indiana Jones one, which is where Matt and Doc joined us for the first time. Then we did Roger Moore. Then we did well, since then we've done Andrew McCarthy, George Clooney early days, and Gene Hackman.
Jesus Christ, have we been doing that for that long?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Holy shit.
And the funny thing is, Andrew, is that every single year Doc watches less of the film.
Less of them, yeah.
But you keep asking me back. And thank you.
That's really the mistake.
And you see, the funny thing is as you saw the process this year, I message the group who are going to be on the show, and I give multiple options of multiple different people's filmographies that we could delve into. And every year we pick the wrong one.
Every year we pick the wrong one, yeah.
And every year, without a shadow of a doubt, Linda Blair's fucking name is on that list.
Well, because...
And never picked.
Right.
Never picked.
Because...
What's her name on that list?
That's like I have very few traditions in my life. In fact, I'm not a big fan of tradition at all. But the one tradition that I hold strong to is not picking Linda Blair for the New Year's Eve special.
And the only reason that I pick her, I'm not a big fan of hers or anything, but the only reason I pick her is that she at least has a weird cross-section of like B-movies and genre films that would kind of be fun to sort of delve in and do.
It's just a shame we'll never do them.
We'll never do them. But I'm going to pull it up 1 second, and I'm not talking about my cock. I'm going to pull it up, the list of things we could have potentially watched this year, just so that everyone listening...
Pulling back the curtain, showing behind the scenes.
Sure.
You know what? I remember putting forward Adam Sandler and you saying no.
Well,
Because I think Adam Sandler would be a great pick to do.
Why would... No, because you can't do someone who's known for comedy. The whole point is you do...
Yeah, but they're not comedy, are they?
No. You're off. You're off. They are comedy. They're just not funny.
Right. Which is kind of like the John Ritter wants to be funny. But at least there was something... Like what I was drawn to with the John Ritter idea was that outside of Real Men... and when I was much younger, Problem Child, but mainly outside of Real Men, I had not seen much of John Ritter's filmography at all. And I remember thinking that I would love to revisit Stay Tuned because it was something that I had seen on VHS trailers at the beginning of movies for the longest time. And was like, I need to kind of track that down because that looks like a weird... 80s, 90s, odd one. Well, you'll see what we all think of it when we get to it. But my suggestions this year for the New Year's Eve show were Donald Pleasance, Linda Blair, Emilio Estevez, Charles Bronson, Lorenzo Lamas, John Ritter, Caroline Munro, Shannon Tweed action films. Not her softcore work, but her action work. British 70s and 80s sex comedies, or rare 90s erotic thrillers. And I thought any of those would make a good episode except John Ritter. And so this group picked John Ritter.
I don't think I said that.
I also don't think I picked John Ritter.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that I'm to blame almost exclusively for this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was entirely on Mo's plate. This is all his fault.
And Andrew, you said you were down for pretty much anything on the list. It was your answer.
Because I hadn't seen pretty much anything on the list. So anything would involve me doing work, so I figured anything would be fine. But then Mo chose John Ritter, and that was a mistake.
In fairness, my original idea was to do nothing but John Ritter made-for-TV movies.
Which would be terrible.
Which would have been way worse.
Yes. Considering I watched exactly one of his made-for-TV movies, and despite an incredible cast and a fairly decent premise, between the director and the writer, they couldn't even squeeze 3 passable minutes out of it. So Doc suggested Steve Martin, but I feel like I know Steve Martin's films way too much. And also it's difficult to do like straight up comedy. Like otherwise we're just sat there going, oh, I love The Jerk. Oh, I love The Jerk too. You know, like it's not, I don't know, it's not quite as fun.
I've listened to that.
So Lorenzo,
3 hours about sucking Steve Martin's dick, basically.
Yeah, Lorenzo Lamas was almost in there, but it was Mo who said Ritter has probably done a ton of crap that he was great in. So you were suggesting that John Ritter was good in other things outside of Real Men.
And I was wrong.
And you were wrong. But I feel if no one has... oh, wait a minute. We haven't spoken about Mo. How's your life been going? How's everything with you, sir? Yeah, all right. Moving on. I feel that we should go chronologically, starting with They All Laughed. Does anyone have any objection to that?
Well, if we're going chronologically, didn't Hero at Large come out first?
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
It did. Hero at Large. Let's start with that one then. Yay.
Yay.
All right, then. In 1980, someone thought that it would be a good idea to do a film in which John Ritter plays a struggling actor in New York who, when picked to help advertise a movie about Captain Avenger, made-up superhero, one night goes into a grocery shop or a bodega or a corner store or whatever you want to call it, and thwarts a robbery while dressed as Captain Avenger. The press that ensues post that means that, or makes him think that he should go out and try and fight crime again. Only this is a movie made in the 1980s without much thought for enjoyment, excitement, or fun. So therefore, he really only does it one more time before it devolves into some sort of moralistic tale about, I don't know what, heroes and politics and whatever. Anyway, this was an absolute slog to sit through. Who watched Hero at Large around the table?
I watched half hour of it.
Okay.
I
wish that's all I'd watched of it.
It did take me 2 sittings to finish. Because the first time I popped it on, I watched about 15 minutes, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this or not. But because my other job is watching really shitty movies, these were fairly easy to get through. But this movie sucks.
And Andrew, did you watch this movie at all?
This would be my quarter of my 2 1/4 movies watched, and I think I got to the part where he foiled the robbery at the store, and it was absolute utter shite up until that point, so I can't imagine it got any better after that.
No, it got brilliant after that.
You're lying.
like
shit.
Fucking
There's no way.
Oscar-worthy shit here.
Absolutely.
He was snubbed.
Yeah.
Guys, can we pause so I can watch the rest of it then? Because
Go ahead.
I mean, this has been done much better in recent years with stuff like Defender and Super. Sort of your average person deciding to be a vigilante while dressed as a superhero. This movie decides to... Well, first of all, the costume is ridiculous.
It's the stupidest fucking thing ever.
Right. And I'm sure they put the costume together as some sort of, I don't know, commentary on superhero costumes, or we've got to remember this is sort of coming off the back of the 60s and 70s superhero TV shows and things where the costumes were a bit more ridiculous. But there's no way anyone would hold this up as a real life hero. In any way at all.
I'm actually currently wearing a pair of the red and white
stripy white friends,
striped underpants. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. It's super bad. There's nothing for Ritter to work with whatsoever. He looks sort of just utterly pathetic and awful in the costume.
Yeah.
There's only one scene that could be considered even a passable action scene. There's no
Is that the sex scene with Ann Archer?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's the car chase sequence with the 2 drug dealers. But there was no. The movie tried to talk about sort of normal people being co-opted, and the way that kind of politics and sort of media corrupt sort of good intentions or good deeds or something. But like, that's, you know, if you're going to do that, you've got to go full balls to the wall. If you want it to be a comedy, you have to go full balls to the wall satire with that, and they didn't really do that. No. The most interesting thing about this movie is its weird connection with a film that is much, much better than it, Taxi Driver. Who knows what the weird connections are between Hero and Large and Taxi Driver?
You talking to me?
And no, I mean anyone. Does anyone know the connection between Hero and Large?
It's in the trivia section on IMDb. I'm looking at it right now.
So go on then, read out the trivia section.
Enlighten us, yes.
It says several nods to Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, 1976, including showing cab drivers hanging outside of the Belmore cafeteria at night, and the casting of Leonard Harris, who played Senator Charles Palantine in Taxi Driver, playing the mayor. In one scene while the mayor is giving a speech, he has both arms raised in the same fashion as Taxi Driver.
It also features the drummer, whose name I've...
I remember. So I was thinking to myself, I'm sure he was in Taxi Driver.
Gene someone, I want to say. Gene someone is the drummer. I forget the name, but it also features the drummer who is in the beginning of Taxi Driver with him shouting out the different styles and things that he's doing on the drums. He also features in Hero at Large. Literally the only two interesting things about the film. That and Ann Archer before she went crazy Scientologist.
Mm.
But
the plot keywords on IMDb is fucking great.
Go on, read them out, Mo.
It starts with bare-chested male.
Yes, that's true. Ritter does like to get nude, I've noticed.
He really does. Hairy chest.
Yes.
and then it just devolves into nothing interesting.
Yeah,
but,
none of those things are relevant to the plot at all. No. Other than Ritter does seem to want to be negative. In fact, if there's a through line between all these Ritter films, it's to do with apparently Ritter's undeniable attraction to women, which is meaning women are attractive, which is weird because in all of these films, he's, you know, such a completely unlikable twazzock that I don't imagine any woman being even remotely interested in him whatsoever.
That is true. Every single one of these, he was so hard to like. Like as a character, like he had no definingly wonderful traits. He was just a dick who you really didn't care about, which is like a huge no-no for any storytelling like basic principle.
Yeah, it's such a shame because, you know, anyone who knows Ritter from his TV shows, you know, Three's Company or Hooperman or whatever, or if you know him from Real Men, where, yes, Real Men, he does play like an uptight suburbanite dad, but it's such a joy to watch him interact and go through the, you know, mad road trip with Jim Belushi and get into all these scrapes and stuff and then finally find the secret agent inside of him. That's such a nice arc for him that you don't hate Bob Wilson in Real Men. You actually you engage with him, you enjoy the trip and so on, and you understand why he's sort of uptight and why he's a little nervous and wet and whatever, because any one of us would be really in that situation. In these movies where he's meant to be likable, like he's essentially meant to be a caddish, likable, fairly unthreatening, bumbling everyman, but with definite self-confidence. Like every single one of these roles, he definitely has self-confidence or whatever. It's sort of, you know, displeasing. It's not particularly enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, he's a huge piece of shit in all of these.
Yeah.
Especially the way he... I know it was 1980, but the way he pursues Ann Archer... I almost was like watching the movie being like, could you not? Could you go away? Like, could you not keep running up to her being like, hi, I'm your next door neighbor. I'm going to like get all up in your life. I'm like, this is just, it wasn't inappropriate. It was just unpleasant to watch.
Which he almost does the exact same thing to in the next movie. They All Laugh to, what was her name? Dorothy Stratton's character. It's the same exact thing, except he's like a nerd ish.
Right. And then in what was the other one we watched? Skin Deep. Don't even get me started on the sexual part.
Oh my God. He's a fucking piece of shit to everybody in that.
To literally everybody in that movie.
It's so weird. And also,
and it's like everybody celebrates him at the end because he stops being a piece of shit. It's like, you shouldn't have been a piece of shit in the first place, you piece of shit.
They could have fixed that movie by just having the mistress shoot him in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that's exactly what should happen. Yes,
that would have been absolutely fantastic and saved us a lot of bother. But no,
we should do a director's cut.
The trouble is
where Tasha Yar just kills him at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah, based on Blake Edwards and clearly his interest in the fact that he wrote it. I think sadly what we watched is the director's cut, and that makes it all the more alarming. Because it's clearly about him. Julie Andrews must have been so upset. But back to Hero at Large. It's certainly not worth watching. It's not even charming in like a late 70s, early 80s way. It's shot very pedestrianly. The only thing that's remotely interesting is the slight glimpses of New York you see, I guess. But
And that's the crazy part too. Not to interrupt you, but that's the crazy part too, because this is directly after the era where you have all of these dirty, gritty New York movies where New York is basically a character in and of itself. And this one, it doesn't have. I mean, it has moments, but it's not there at all.
No, not really. I mean, there was. I think the thing that is most upsetting about this movie is the huge potential for the idea and for the movie, especially in like 1980s New York, and the idea of like a vigilante and whatever, that they just completely and utterly waste. Then they try and tack on this idea about like the media towards the end, and then in order to redeem himself, he has to like run into a burning building. Like, it's sort of, I don't know, it was just awful. In fact, the burning building sequence was about the only entertaining sequence. And then it completely gets the message wrong towards the burning building sequence.
Because everybody starts running in. It's like, no, the building's burning. Don't do that.
There's all this. Also, what does it say about, like, the NYPD and the fire department, the FDNY? Because, like, they're all there. The building is burning down, and two guys are like, just try and stop us. We're going to run into a burning building, right? If that actually, I mean, I don't know. What, just awful. I can't even be bothered to talk about the film anymore. It depresses me. I really wanted this John Ritter episode to be like, oh, we discovered some hitherto unseen gems, and actually what we discovered was...
We discovered solid gold shit.
Yeah.
At every single turn.
Be careful saying the word gold around Doc.
Doc, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot. It's his trigger word. I don't want to use it. Don't you find that none of these movies know what the hell they are? Like, I get that they're classed as comedy romance, comedy adventure, fantasy, which for Staying Tuned, which is probably the closest to being accurate.
Right.
But they never actually feel like, especially, I mean, Skin Deep did not feel like a comedy romance movie.
No.
And Hero at Large, I don't know, I couldn't find the comedic elements in it because it seemed like it was trying to take itself so seriously, but then it was still trying to edge toward comedy by looking just absolutely stupid in that fucking suit.
Well, I think what we've learned is, I think what they thought was, well, it's going to be a comedy because we're going to put John Ritter in there and he'll bring the comedy. But I'm not sure that that's what John Ritter does. He's not. He's so much better as a reactor and as a second fiddle than he is as the driving force of the comedy. He just doesn't really. Because what's his shtick? I mean, the closest you get to kind of John
chest
Ritter's
hair.
regular shtick, yes, chest hair.
Which is hilarious. I mean,
yeah, his chest hair is just some of the funniest chest hair ever committed to celluloid. But the closest you get to kind of Ritter's sort of comedic shtick is in They All Laughed, where he's sort of a little bit bumbling. But he's not really, he's not really a nebbish. He's not really like a neurotic. He's not a wisecracker. He's not, like, what is he? He's not really anything.
He's a guy who up until this point had been making a living falling over a couch.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't mind that.
Which is fine. Slapstick humor is great, but he wasn't doing any of it.
He's a guy who up until this point had been falling over a couch and marginalizing his co-stars.
And the entire gay community.
True.
Yeah.
Yes. So let us move on then. Did anyone have anything else to say at Heroes at Large or Hero at Large?
Yeah, I do. Fuck this movie. Next.
Doc?
First half hour, I'm not going to watch the other hour.
No, don't. And Andrew, any comments?
No, for the 20 minutes I watched, it was bloody awful.
All right, so let's move on to the movie that killed Dorothy Stratton. True story. This movie actively killed a Playboy playmate because Peter can't keep it in his pants, bonking Bogdanovich, decided to have an affair with Dorothy Stratton, which caused her original lover and somewhat aggressive handler. Not pimp, but he was like he was a guy who like brought her out to Hollywood and got her in Playboy and whatever, and I forget his name, but basically he was sort of obsessed with her and did all he could to try and make her a star. And then when she went off with Peter Boink Danovich, he strapped her to a chair, assaulted her, and then shot her in the face with a shotgun.
Then he killed himself.
Shit.
And then killed himself, yeah. So this is literally the movie that killed Dorothy Stratton. So, you know, it's a knockabout comedic farce.
My feeling about this film is it was made in the 80s. Should have been made in the 70s. And if it had done, it'd still be alive.
Yeah. Right, although she would have definitely been way too young for John Ritter. So, this movie describes itself as a madcap private eye caper about a team of detectives who are following and being followed by a group of beautiful women. Nope, because what this actually is a movie that
about
is
stalking.
About right. What this movie is actually about, it is about private. It's the central conceit is this. What if a bunch of private eyes were following a bunch of women because their husbands had asked them to? And what would happen if the private eyes fell in love with the women and the women fell in love with the private eyes? The answer being nothing interesting. But in this film, I suppose it's meant to be sort of a madcap thing. But Bogdanovich is so used to doing kind of arty-farty, talky, wafty kind of films that he doesn't know how to do like a knockabout. If this was in the style of like What's New Pussycat or one of those like 60s romps, then it would be fine. Like it would, you know, you throw Peter O'Toole in here or you throw Peter Sellers or someone in this film and they're all like knocking about New York, like jumping into each other's beds.
Should have been a Woody Allen film.
Right, almost, but it's just... What's weird about it is that not only does Bogdanovich, for some reason, fill the fucking movie with country and western music, which makes no sense at all. He sets it in New York, but then sort of doesn't really do anything with that. And then the bit where they're all meant to fall in love with each other is sort of, well, they all kind of fall in lust with each other. Like there is no real kind of romance or whatever, but then you're not going to show it. They don't show any of the bonking. So you're sort of like, well, it's not a romp. So it's sort of out of the four movies, I found this to be weirdly the most charming and enjoyable, but in general, that's a low benchmark.
Right. I mean, my opinion is my biggest issue with this movie is the writing. Like it's way too like snappy and like witty, like not witty in like a good way, you know what I mean? Like everybody knows exactly what the perfect thing to say is.
But I quite enjoyed that.
At every give. No, I mean, I kind of like that. And for certain characters that made sense, like Ben Gazzara, fucking fantastic in this. Like he's just like that fucking like. First off, he's not a particularly handsome man, so I love the fact that he's like this Lothario.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like he's betting everybody left and right.
It's Jackie Treehorn, the detective years.
Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't work for John Ritter's character, who is supposed to be more anxiety riddled, and this, that, and the other. And he should have been more like that. Should have been way more over the top. But he still knows exactly what to say at the right moment.
Yeah, I mean, his role is closest to a traditional kind of Woody Allen role of this era.
Yeah,
I think he's playing Peter Bogdanovich.
Oh, well, most definitely.
That was the whole point. I guess it is supposed to be a younger version of Bogdanovich, because apparently Bogdanovich wrote it for Dudley Moore originally, which is weird because Dudley Moore was also the first one considered by Blake Edwards for the last one, which I've already forgotten.
Skin Deep.
The Hero at Large. And he dropped out, and it caused a huge rift between him and Blake Edwards. But anyway, it's weird
now I would have watched Hero at Large starring Dudley Moore.
But Hero at Large is not a Blake Edwards movie.
Oh, which one did we just talk about then?
Skin Deep is a Blake Edwards movie.
Were you thinking of Ronnie Corbett?
That would have been fucking amazing.
But
of course, that being said, any of these movies starring Dudley Moore would have been that much better. So
right.
Sure.
No, but you needed someone who could do, if you look at a lot of the films where Woody Allen isn't in them and he casts other people to essentially play him, I think if someone had said to Ritter, like, by the way, you're playing Woody Allen, like, don't play Bogdanovich, play Woody Allen with all the nervous twitches and the stumbling over things and the attempting to be sexy when you're clearly not sexy, that kind of stuff. This movie would have been a lot more watchable because it would have
been at least a 1.5 star.
Because it's better than that. But like Ben Gazzara is amazing in it.
Yeah, he really is.
The women in it are actually all really good. With a particular shout out to Colleen Camp, who is incredible. Really enjoyed her in the movie. I liked her gutsy.
I actually kind of wonder how much Colleen Camp inspired. The borderline autistic girl from Real Genius, the one I'm talking, because they're the same character, just minus the country music.
Right. But I liked all the characters. I mean, Audrey Hepburn is sadly only in here to be a name. That she doesn't really have a character, sadly. But I
really liked Patty Hansen too. I thought she was great.
Patty Hansen was awesome in it. Yeah. Dorothy Stratton is fine. I mean, again, doesn't get to sort of say anything or do anything outside of just sort of being pretty. But
well, she's an object to be lusted after. Basically, she's not really a character in the film.
Yeah. But so, Andrew and Doc, did you watch this one?
No, I didn't watch any of this one. So I really, really enjoyed it, and this one is my favorite that we've talked about so far.
Let's see. Doc, did you watch this one?
I have watched most of this, and I will finish this one.
Okay.
Because I was enjoying it. Yeah.
I think what happened for me was that the first half of the movie, the other thing that Bogdanovich does, which annoys the hell out of me, and again comes more from his arty indie sensibility than it does knowing what movie he's making, is that the first 30 minutes you have absolutely no idea who any of these people are or what they're doing. It isn't. Right. You don't even get to meet the fact that they're in a detective agency until about 30 minutes in. In fact, the guy who plays Leon, you see him at the beginning of the movie, and she's talking about, oh, your friend is strange and blah, 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 blah. You have no idea what relation he is to Ben Gazzara or any of that. It's almost like...
I thought that from the first 10 minutes of this movie, I thought it was going to be like a spy thriller.
Right.
Like an actual 007 spy thriller type
I had
thing.
No idea what was going on. It's almost as if about 30 minutes in, someone looked at the script and was like, okay, you've got to establish at least a couple of things here, Bogdanovich, you big glassed fool, and sat down and then sort of wrote a more traditional film. Because I think the moment it's established that they're all working for a detective agency, and that even Leon, the head of the detective agency, is having an affair with his secretary. The sort of sex romp and knockabout kind of romantic caper aspects start to sort of fall more into place. Like, that should have been established at the beginning of the movie. And it shouldn't have all this country and western music and all this Sinatra music in it. It should have more sort of bam, 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 bam. Like it should have more sort of, Benny Hill meets What's New Pussycat type stuff in it. Is really what it should have. Because the whole idea is it's like everyone is sleeping with everyone. And the only way you make fun out of that is to kind of keep the energy high and have a lot of like farcical elements with people running in and out of rooms and almost getting caught and whatever. None of that happens in the film. And even worse than that, it doesn't really establish what it is until about 30, 40 minutes in. Once it established what it was and what was happening, I actually quite enjoyed it. But the first 40 minutes was so difficult to kind of wade through and sort of get any humor from or any fun from that it kind of tainted how I felt about the second half, even though by the time I understood what was going on, I did start to enjoy it.
Right.
I agree.
And the...
Although, I think if you'd have taken out that soundtrack and put in a bit of jungle...
A bit of jungle music?
That'd work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd have been good.
Colleen Camp just gets up on stage and plays bongos for 20 minutes.
Yeah, she breaks out, does a bit of shabba-ranks.
Yeah. But that's the other thing, is I have to say, if you're going to make a knockabout romantic farce, it can't be 2 hours long, and a third of it can't be live musical performances. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, just don't do it. And it's sort of one of those things where, because it's independently produced, this film, independently directed. In fact, it's so independently produced that one of the producers even shows up as a character in the film, Blaine Novak. And you're like, you're in dangerous waters when you're casting the producer in a film. But rather than being an established actor who happens to be exec producing the film, this guy's just a producer who he happens to put in the film.
But he's got such great hair, though.
He does have really good hair. But the big issue...
Is that the guy with really long hair?
The long hair and the mustache, who looks like Blue Marini from the...
You know what? I reckon he must have... That must have took some time to get it all in that hat.
Well, he was on set 3 hours early every day.
You see.
It was like when they have like a big makeup on a film where they're like, he was 4 hours in the makeup chair. This guy was 4 hours in the hair chair.
Yeah, fuck that Hellboy costume and makeup.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fancy putting that hair in that hat.
No.
The IMDb score does not do it justice.
It does not, no. But no, it's clear, and I think because when you look at the end credits, Bogdanovich and some others actually wrote some of the lyrics of those songs. I think there's a lot of this that's smart of Bogdanovich being incredibly pleased with everything he does. And sort of wanting to spend more time on all that, and an editor and a better writer would just come in and go, nope, stop it, cut it. Like, have the characters go into the bar as she finishes the song. We really don't need to hear not just one, but 3 full Colleen Camp songs. We just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think it works better as a John Ritter film because it's an ensemble and you get a little bit less Ritter?
It does. I mean, when you first see Ritter in this film, it's sort of pleasing, the little bits he's doing and the bit where he sits down in the hotel restaurant or tries to order and has the newspaper and sticks the straw up his nose and stuff like that. But that needed to kind of continue, and it needed to be ramped up to be more comedic. It wasn't bumbling enough. Him and Blaine Novak should have been. The Blaine Novak should have been the sort of laid-back hippie stoner type, and John Ritter should have been the massively neurotic, nervous type, and they should have bounced off each other. But Blaine Novak wasn't a good enough actor for that, and John Ritter wasn't given enough sort of Woody Allen-esque business to do. So therefore, sort of neither kind of works. They're just sort of these two characters in the movie where you're like, all right, that just happened.
See, Doc, the reason why this works as a John Ritter film is because it's a Ben Gazzara film.
Right.
Yeah.
You nailed it. I'll tell you what else I found a bit weird about it. That taxi driver at the start, that woman, Sam was her name, she only had one puff on a cigarette.
Paddy Hansen.
And then chucked it out the cab window. I'm thinking, and then she goes, I was smoking 30 packets of cigarettes a day at one time. I thought, of course you were. You're only taking one bloody puff of each one, you dumb bitch. It's not how you do it.
No, got it all wrong there. But, yeah, I mean, I would say of all the movies, this one's sort of one to check out. Just be aware that it's, like I say, if a better director had made it or a different director had made it, because I think Bogdanovich has his place and there's some of his movies I quite enjoy, but madcap farcical sex romps are not his area of expertise.
Right.
But the cast,
it should have been so much better.
Yeah,
it should have been 35 minutes shorter. Right. And honestly, of the four, this is easily the best. This is easily the best of the four movies we watched. But it's way too long. And like John said, there's way too many fucking country music nonsense in it. Even if you like country music, you're going to watch this movie and be like, there's too much fucking country music in it.
Because it simply doesn't fit.
I'll tell you what, I like country music. Yeah. Dolly Parton said the same thing.
Yeah, she said there's too much fucking country music in this movie.
Director Quentin Tarantino has called this movie a masterpiece.
Well, that's because Quentin Tarantino's another one who doesn't know how to fucking edit. So
yeah. Also, Quentin Tarantino, as we all know, watched Red Surf and realized that George Clooney would be a great actor. You're like, only Tarantino could watch Red Surf and think anything other than, ow, my face hurts.
I spent how much on this?
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's not a masterpiece by anybody's standards. Almost every other New York director has done a better romp film than this, comedy film than this. But its cast is strong. It has some really nice things in the script. Ben Gazzara's the way of talking and the little one-liners and stuff are really pleasing. Some of the back and forth between him and some of the women are done really well.
He's so smooth.
Yeah, it's just done really well, written really well, and it's nice. But this whole, wouldn't it be, contradictory to have, country music in New York? It's like, it doesn't work. Whatever the idea was to have that kind of contrast, it just doesn't work.
And they had already done it a couple of years previous, or maybe they did it later. I don't know. When did Rhinestone come out? Was that before this or after this?
I have no idea. I've not seen it.
Fuck it. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to sit here and shut up.
Yeah, but just in general. So, Andrew, did you watch this one?
Which one was this, sir?
They all
They're
laughed.
all blended together, guys.
They all laughed.
No, they all left. I didn't. I know I didn't. I didn't watch this one.
Okay. All right.
So I have nothing useful to add.
Nothing useful to add. Doc, did you have anything more to add, sir?
Rhinestone came after.
Not really. I will finish it, though.
All right. Good.
Hero at Large? Definitely not. But I will finish this one. And campaign for a director's cut.
Yeah. Or rather, not the director's cut. A director's cut for anything other than this. So,
no, I meant for a different director.
Oh, yeah.
We need a fucking editor's cut.
Yeah, a Woody Allen director's cut. I would watch that.
Yeah.
So, no one else watched this, but I do want to briefly talk about it very quickly. Sunset Limousine from 1983. A struggling stand-up comic, Alan O'Black, moonlights as a limousine driver and gets mixed up in a client's shady business deal.
Next.
Believe it or not, guys from England, Andrew was originally, you're from England, and Doc, you're in England. This was written by Dick Clement and Ian LaFrenne. So not Dick Francis at all. Dick Clement and Ian LaFrenne, who are famous in England for having written Porridge, but have also written The Commitments and The Bank Job, and various other well-known films. Auf Wiedersehen Pet, they're known for writing that. And they wrote this, like I say, this story about these limo drivers. Now, it's got a great cast. It's got John Ritter, Paul Reiser, Martin Short, and Susan Day, all really good in the movie. They're not really good in the movie, but normally really good. But for whatever reason, this was a made-for-TV film. And although it's, again, very similar to like They All Laughed and Even Hero at Large, it's meant to be this sort of knockabout romp about limo drivers and one of them, Ritter's trying to get his girlfriend back, but also trying to be a stand-up comic. And there's sort of this thing going on with Martin Short's character that turns out to not be very interesting. And they completely... there's even the character where one of the guys who works at limo place is one of those like limo drivers for life, who's like, see the buttons on my jacket? Like, I have 3 buttons. I'm more... superior to you and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's even got that character from kind of 80s romps that like tries to outdo our hero, you know? Like, it has all these sort of very cliche characters, and it has a sort
of... The question is there a Chinese downhill?
No, there's no Chinese downhill and no boobs, unfortunately, in this movie.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
But...
what about, like, thick 70s bush?
There is, but it's all on Paul Reiser's head.
Mo's now downloading it.
Yeah.
I wore a merkin.
But it's, yeah, I mean, for example, have a movie about a stand-up comedian limo driver, and you cast Paul Reiser as the best friend and not the comedian. Like, Paul Reiser should be the host, the lead, and John Ritter should be this should have been a Paul Reiser vehicle, because it would have been more interesting.
Oh, I see what you did there. Vehicle,
yes, blah, 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 blah. But it was one of those where I watched it and I'm like, it's such a shame that this was made for TV, because it is so pedestrianly directed. Like, there's no understanding of like pace or punchlines or any of that stuff. Like, it's just... It's directed like an episode of Dallas, and you're just like, oh, like, again, put this script in the hands of someone who knows how to direct the film, swap John Ritter and Paul Reiser's characters around, and it would be like a genuinely fun film. As it is, it isn't. But I thought I would mention it anyway, because it was a little curiosity, and I did sit through it. I assume no one else did.
Nope. No.
Okay, then.
But the director was well known for TV comedy, like not TV movies, but actual sitcoms, Golden Girls, Two Ronnies, even like Friends and all sorts of...
Two Ronnies and the Golden Girls.
He did the Two Ronnies.
Weird.
That is fucking incredible.
Third Rock from the Sun.
What a filmography. That is incredible to me.
It's actually real weird.
The Golden Girls and the Two Ronnies.
And also Friends.
I bet he's got some stories.
I bet he does.
Carry on.
I've got a feeling I've actually got a feeling that I've watched another one of this guy's movies recently.
Doc, he actually has a really great story about getting sucked off by Estelle Getty between scenes. So, you
know what? I bet he's also got some stories about wanking off Ronnie Corbett as well. You know.
Although we all know where it all started. In 1964, he directed one episode of Hi There, It's Rolf Harris. So this man is not to be trusted.
Was he a line producer on Top of the Pops as well?
It's a fucking legend in our midst right here.
But yeah, he did Ripping Yarns, 2 episodes of Ripping Yarns. He did Monty Python Live at the Hollywood Bowl. He did Mr. Mum, but I don't think it's the one we all know, is it?
No.
1984. It's the one with...
No, it's the one with Barry Van Dyke in it.
Yeah.
Because that's the one we all want to see. The one with Dick Van Dyke's lesser impressive son. So, yeah, weird director that he's done a bunch of stuff. I've got a feeling that I've seen other stuff he's done, though, but I can't for the life of me think what it is now. And scrolling through, I can't find it. But
I tell you what, though, he looks a sort, doesn't he? Have you seen his Terry Hughes?
Oh, yeah, he is. He's got that dimple chin, that one. That's...
Yeah, I'm considering changing my profile picture on Facebook to him.
To him, yeah. He looks like the kind of guy who's probably shared a stogie with Michael Winner, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like Donald Trump a bit.
Don't insult the man. Some
people think he's a very handsome president.
Well, some people
some
people are confused, blind, idiotic, and dangerous.
I'd love to see the Venn diagram of people who think that Donald Trump is handsome and people who are currently suffering from head wounds.
Probably quite a lot of crossover.
It's just a circle.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out that most of the movies we're doing for this show all have over 6 out of 10 on IMDb. If ever there was, like, Mo and Dog and Andrew, we've all liked movies that have like 2 out of 10 or even like 3 out of 10 on IMDb. The fact that these movies are over 6 out of 10 on IMDb just says how wrong human beings generally are in the grand scheme of things when you put a group of them together.
Yep. Or John Ritter's family have opened up a lot of emails to get that pushed up.
John Ritter's son, John Ritter's son, who's been a guest on this very show.
Has he? What was he? He's famous for a film, and his son. Which one was it?
Ooh, is it Jason Ritter? It's Jason Ritter, isn't it?
Yeah. What film was he in? Quite popular.
What film is he well known for?
He was in that one about bank robbers.
Freddy versus Jason.
That's where I know him from.
But
I know him from Gravity Falls. He plays the voice of the main character.
And I interviewed him for a movie. Let's have a look. I'm just scrolling back. It was some time ago.
Probably best not to tag him in with this episode.
No. Do you want an episode where for 2 hours, 4 guys get around and slag off your dad? No, I got to interview him and David Krumholtz for their movie The Big Ask in 2013. Which wasn't very good. But you can, if you look back through our interviews, you can hear me talk to Jason Ritter, son of the man, who we are sadly not liking any of his films. What's also funny is that when you read up about John Ritter, the one thing they say is he was a hugely successful TV star. He attempted film stardom many times, but unfortunately every single film that he was in was a massive flop. And what's funny about that is only in the 80s could John Ritter continue to try and be in films when every single one of them was a flop. Like nowadays, if you're in 2 flops back to back, that's it. Goodbye, mate. You're done. Ritter got to keep going well into the 2000s, which is quite staggering. And speaking of which, sadly, we now have to go on to Skin Deep, which, while not the worst movie of the 4, it's definitely the worst in terms of its politics and just in general, whatever Blake Edwards thought he was doing with this movie. Skin Deep from 1989, apparently a comedy drama romance about a womanizing alcoholic writer whose life seems to be falling apart at the seams, repeatedly finds himself in trouble of one sort or another with the law, ex-girlfriends, and jealous boyfriends. Which makes it sound like, again, a knockabout romp where people come after Ritter for, having sex with their girlfriends or something, but actually that's not what it's about at all. It's essentially a film used to prop up a gag about an illuminous condom. That's really what it is.
And that's the only scene in the movie I liked. That fucking scene is hilarious. Everything else in this movie can go suck huge donkey balls, but the fucking glow in the dark condom scene, fucking hilarious.
It would have only been good if they had done, when the other guy put on the glow in the dark condom as well, if they had done
sword fighting.
A sword fight, and they didn't, which was.
But they made it. But the joke following it when he gets arrested, and they said, "What did he get arrested for?" And he says, "Cockfighting." That's pretty funny.
It is.
That was pretty funny.
My favorite scene in the movie was when his ex-girlfriend, better known as the woman from Fletch Lives, because it's really the only other place I've seen her, puts him through some sort of like electroshock therapy or something. And he goes out into the street and his body is constantly convulsing. and he knocks the woman's legal files out of her hand, and all her paperwork goes everywhere. And then he goes out into a car park and humps a blind guy. Like, that was my favorite sequence of the whole movie. I thought the movie itself is utterly deplorable. We're meant to like go along with like this hideously horrible womanizing alcoholic.
Yeah. How is he supposed to be a sympathetic lead? Like, you can't have any sympathy for this man. He's a fucking piece of shit.
Well, it's because I think movies like this, it's when they've seen other films, and again, we can bring up Woody Allen sort of thing, but also like, I don't know, Gene Wilder or Mel Brooks or something. Like, they've seen films in which the lead character is this cad, right, who, you know, may have a couple of girlfriends or may cheat on his wife or may whatever it is. But throughout the film, that, you know, either gets their comeuppance or, you know, there's some farcical elements or whatever it is. They've seen that and they've gone, okay, I'm going to do that. The thing that I think began to creep me out with this one is how much I was like, so wait a minute, is this Blake Edwards making a movie about himself? And that's really when it started, because the character is a writer who had some success both with books but also movies, like earlier in his career, and now has writer's block. You know, he has the kind of look of Blake Edwards with the beard and hair and the glasses and stuff. And I don't know, like, I just wondered if this was a little bit of either wish fulfillment, or it just felt very weirdly real in a weird way, like the way he wrote it. I don't know.
You know, it wasn't real though.
No.
that beard.
That beard at the end is not real. But yeah, it was pretty awful. Like, the psychiatrist scenes were meant to be funny, but they weren't. And
they weren't.
They were fucking depressing.
They were so depressing.
You know, the fact that the woman he took home from the bar ended up being a bodybuilder, like, where was the joke with that? Like, I don't know, were we meant to be afraid? Like, were we meant to be kind of skeeved out by that?
I don't know. I thought she was kind of hot.
Well, she's been in other stuff. What's she in? She's in, is it Armed and Dangerous she's in? What's the movie where they, like, infiltrate a gym and then she chases them out? It's some buddy cop movie from the 80s. I think it's Armed and Dangerous. I think she chases John Candy and Eugene Levy out of a gym, I think.
I'm gonna look for her.
I don't even remember what that character's name was.
Yeah, she wasn't billed as bodybuilding girl, so I'm not really sure who she actually gave her a name.
Like, if you compare this movie, like, the closest comparison to this would be something like a Deconstructing Harry, if you're going to talk about a writer who, you know, was a womanizer and a drunkard and a pill popper and all the rest of it, who sort of has some kind of redemption towards the end. But I think that because Woody Allen remembers to write some jokes in there, and also because he makes it quite clear that we're not meant to like him at the beginning of the movie, whereas this movie seems to want us to sympathize with this guy. Like,
but he's absolutely not a sympathetic character in any regards. Even at the end, when he gets his big, you know, fixing, so to speak, like, just because. So was that his stepson's girlfriend who, like, grabs his cock at the end and he like doesn't fuck her? You know, it's like, oh,
congratulations! Big turning point.
Yeah, congratulations. A woman grabbed your cock and you didn't fuck her. You're fucking Jesus now. Good for you, buddy.
Right?
So it sounds like it's a movie where the director knows he's got faults, but he's actually not addressed any of them. He thinks he's going to achieve it through making the film then, and it fails.
Yes. You're saying it was like therapy for Blake Edwards? This is his deep dive into his own psychosis?
It just makes me feel very sorry for Julie Andrews.
Right, okay. So he's he just thinks he can achieve his forgiveness through the film. It's like, no, dude, you still got to do a bit more than just make a fucking film.
Also, it's definitely the zenith of films where inexplicably John Ritter can sleep with anyone he wants. Like, if John Ritter walked into a bar with the fake beard on, like he does in this movie, I don't know that any woman would go near him, let alone, like, actively chase him.
There's actually a really great moment when he's wearing that fake beard that he like takes a drink out of whatever, I think it's at the end and it's like this fucking club soda or whatever. And he actually has to push his mustache back down again.
Yeah. Well, it's clear reshoots. And what blew my mind about the reshoots was just have a scene in which he shaves. Like, just it's towards the end of the movie where he's meant to be having like this redemptive process anyway. So have him shave as part of his redemptive process. I mean, Hollywood loves to claim that like bearded men are somehow, you know, distraught and depressed inside anyway. Like whenever you have a hero character who I'm truth of that, but yeah. But when it's like when Jack Bauer goes on the lam and whatever, he grows a beard and he's like becomes an alcoholic or whatever. But then once he's shaved the beard off, he's suddenly like superhero again.
Bye vices. Right. I'm good to go.
What I didn't realize was my entire addictive personality was trapped deep within my beard. Once I shaved it off, I was fine. And that's all they needed to do. But instead, no.
But we live in a world where everybody's got a beard now. So do you think in future, when blokes go off and they try to find themselves, they'll have a shave?
Yeah, they'll have a shave. I'll have a goatee or something.
Well, yeah, because didn't Captain America have a beard or something when he was all down and out, and now he's not again?
Yeah, now he's shaved it.
Yeah, it is. It's
and he looks so much better with the beard.
Of course, but Hollywood's rule is.
That's the rule. All men look better with a beard.
Right, but Hollywood's rule is if you have a beard, it talks to some sort of deep problem within your soul. I don't know why.
Because it's true.
Right, but not in this movie where apparently this beard, fake or otherwise, can remove underwear in lightning time. And some of the horrible like leaps into bed after mere seconds with Ritter are just, they're not even funny. It's just unbearable.
Well, that was the whole point of those. They were supposed to be funny, but they weren't. So there was supposed to be some kind of balance between the amusing sexual romps that he has continued throughout the movie and him whining about it either to his bartender or his therapist, who essentially might as well be the same person. But it never actually plays out. The structural integrity of this movie is so weak. It's so frustrating.
Now, here's the thing. I would be willing to forgive this movie of that if it had been made in 1980 because they didn't have an entire decade of the greatest fucking sex romps ever to exist.
That is true.
To fucking play off of. But this came out in 89. So all of the best fucking sex romps had already happened. You had an entire decade of movies to learn from, and you didn't learn shit.
Right. And not only that, but they went, I know lots of people love sex romps about, like, young sporty types or, like, young college grads or whatever it is. How about we do one about a middle-aged man having a midlife crisis with a fake beard who's John Ritter?
But that's the funny thing is there are several 80s teen sex romps that's the exact plot line of middle-aged guys going off to the beach. Fucking Hard Bodies alone that's exactly what it's about. It's about three fucking middle-aged dudes who are going through midlife crisis but they're the butt of every joke, because they don't get any sex, like, because they're fucking sad, pathetic old dudes. That's what this should have been about.
Right. I think that's...
Let everybody else have the sex. Fuck John Ritter.
Right. The biggest problem with this is that he continues to be successful...
I know.
Despite, and that I think that's the problem. Anyway.
Yeah. Somebody tells him a goddamn, story about a toad and a fucking scorpion, and I know what I have to do now. Although I have to admit, the part where he's kind of like meditating on the beach and the wave crashes over him, that fucking made me laugh.
Right.
Because then he breaks into he breaks it back into the house where his agent, I guess it is, and he's like, I found God, and he's a gag writer, and then another fucking wave crashes in behind him. I'm like, the whole movie should have been like that. Right. That fucking scene right there, those two moments was perfection.
Well, because Blake Edwards, who's most famous for the Pink Panther films with Peter Sellers, but also Breakfast at Tiffany's and various others, what Blake Edwards is good at doing is sort of weird, large slapstick stuff. And so the, glow-in-the-dark condom, the electrocuted humping the blind guy, and the giant wave crashing into the beach house, like, they're all things he knows how to do, and they were the three funniest things in the film.
Yeah, like what I don't understand is why the rest of the movie couldn't have been like that.
Maybe Blake Edwards was only on set for 3 days.
Well, because if you think of the original Pink Panther film, there's even a sequence where they're jumping in and out of closets while husbands might be caught by wives and wives might be, and so on and so forth, which is basically the glow-in-the-dark condom scene, but without a glow-in-the-dark condom. Why
is the first plot keyword on this movie female nudity? There's only one actual nude scene, right?
No, there's multiple.
There's a few.
Oh, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I just wasn't paying enough attention.
John Ritter wasn't the only boob in this film.
They actually did this concept. What was that TV show with David Duchovny in it, where he was an alcoholic womanizing? What?
Oh, you're talking about Californication.
Yes, there was the same concept.
Yeah,
that actually worked at that. Yeah, that worked.
Was actually great.
Yes and no. I wasn't a huge fan, but
I only watched the first 2 seasons.
You're right.
So.
Californication is very, very close to this film.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have anything else to say about this?
Nah.
Nope.
All right, then. This is the last film that we're going to be talking about then is 1992's Stay Tuned, which is all about a family man who can't stop watching TV, his wife who hates him for it, and the fact that they get sucked into hell's antenna and have to survive for 24 hours. Otherwise, Jeffrey Jones gets to molest them.
That's what I call my dick, hell's antenna.
I thought you were going to say Jeffrey Jones. That was weird.
Why? Because your dick keeps attracting demons.
Yes. Have you seen any of the women I've dated?
I have, yes.
I was going to say, actually, you have. You met the nicest one. In fairness, you met the nicest one. So
yeah. I actually liked her. She was good. Anyway, stay tuned. I'm already tired, so someone else talk. I assume this is the one everyone watched, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes.
I did watch it, and it was weird because I've apparently seen this before, but I didn't realize I'd seen it before until I got to the cartoon section when I was like, "Oh shit, I remember this."
Yeah, this is the only one.
Walked it out.
Yeah, this is the only one that I had seen previously. I actually enjoy this movie. I think the idea of switching channels and having new things happening every so many minutes, works really well for it because that way you're not too bored with any one thing that's happening. And the comedy works. For the most part, I think there's a lot of really funny bits in it. There is some really horrifically cornball shit as well. I'm thinking a lot about that Salt and Pepper video.
Oh my God, that is awful.
Yeah, that's probably
is awful.
I mean, honestly, John Ritter, who is like a suburbanite, middle-aged dad, dressed up like Prince, trying to dance, is moderately funny. But
it comes up as so stupid though. Like I saw that part, I was like, it's just Everything about it looked ridiculous.
Also,
but the best part about that though is that DJ Spinderella wants to give the control, the remote control, to Spike, and I'm like, yeah, girl, give it to the devil.
What's really funny about that sequence is what fucking agent put that deal together. Like, you'd think that Salt and Pepper would at least be able to get their stuff in a better film than Stay Tuned, but he was like, look, we've been to everyone in Hollywood, no one wants it. However, we do have this low budget John Ritter comedy where he gets sucked into the devil's TV station. Do you want in on that?
Sold.
By the way, you will have to. I
was going to say, can we actually appear in it?
You will have to do a music video with John Ritter, basically in blackface and drag.
Yeah. But yeah, there is a lot of really enjoyable shit with this. I hated the kids.
Oh, the fucking kid! I hate the trope of the one kid's really intelligent who can figure everything out.
I know.
Oh god!
And the older sister doesn't give a shit until it's really there's actually some kind of emergency going on.
Because realistically, most kids, if me and Claire were to disappear into the TV, my kids would not give a flying fuck.
Well, they'd give a fuck once the refrigerator was empty, or
No, they'd just keep ringing for pizzas. They'd probably know where my credit card was. They'd be fine. They'd
figure it out.
Be all right.
But yeah, it was, my other problem with this movie is that Waxwork and Waxwork 2 did it so much better.
So much better, yeah.
The concept of job. And also the fact that, there's some really nice sequences. Like, I think the kind of like the game show sequence is really nice, and there's a couple of other bits. But like the whole SNL bit where literally let's redo Wayne's World jokes, but with like hell and devil puns.
Dwayne's Underworld.
Yeah, it was just. I'm like, you're literally just doing. Wait, like, how is that even allowed? Like, how did someone just like sue their ass? It's not like you even bothered to write any of your own jokes.
Do you think they watched it?
What, Wayne's World?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really want to watch it.
Well, wait a minute. Are you saying? Do you think Mike Myers watched it?
Yeah, he probably was like, they've copied your Wayne's World. He's probably like, do I have to watch it? Probably best. Leave it, mate. Nah. I'm fine.
I liked the cartoon sequence. I liked the detective sequence. But again, like, the detective sequence could have been so much better. Like, you could have had a whole parody of sort of the hard-boiled language and the one-liners and the Bogart stuff and all the rest of it, and they just don't bother. Eugene Levy is horribly wasted.
He is wasted in this. It's such a fucking shame because he's really good.
It's the least good Jeffrey. Like, Jeffrey Jones is one of my favorites from the 80s.
He just plays a really good mean bastard.
But even in this, he's not particularly good in this film.
Yeah, they could have made him a lot more sinister, because the movie can still be funny with the baddie being, bad.
Yeah, I think I just wanted it to be either funnier or weirder. Like, it wasn't weird enough and it wasn't funny enough. Like, I wanted it to have that kind of, like, 80s, early 90s weirdness about it. And it didn't.
Right.
And I think all of Ritter's movies, like, they never seem to go as far as they need to go. They're always just sitting that very safe, boring fucking line rather than actually pushing the envelope to be this weird or this stupid or this funny, so it actually works.
It seems like John Ritter's making films that are way out of their time zone. This should have been made in the 80s.
Yeah.
They All Laugh should have been made in the 70s.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hero at Large shouldn't have been made.
Yeah.
And Skin Deep should have been made by somebody completely different. Somebody who's actually, actually repentant for what they've done. So it's like...
But yeah, by the way, this was directed by also former guest of the After Movie Diner, Peter Hyams. You can hear him on the Enemies Closer episode.
Crazy.
Peter Hyams of 2010 fame. of End of Days fame, of Outland fame.
The same guy that made this made End of Days.
Yeah, and Sudden Death, and Time Cop.
What in the hell? That's so weird.
Yeah, and Running Scared, and Capricorn 1. Yeah. Very well-known filmmaker.
You know what did work for me in this movie? It was literally one sequence, which was the driving over Miss Daisy one. Made me laugh out.
I thought that was very funny.
And again, I loved all the... I thought what was really clever in the movie was all the either movie title puns or the commercial puns. I thought they were nicely done, and I would have liked a lot more of them and a lot less of what I got.
Honestly, this should have been like a Weird Al movie.
Right. That's the other thing is UHF kind of does this so much better as well.
Yeah, this should have been UHF too.
So what we're saying is that in every John Ritter movie, they should have been made in a different decade with a different director and a different leading actor. Yeah.
We'd be really discussing some great films, wouldn't we?
We would have been, it would have been a very different podcast.
It would, but that podcast wouldn't have happened though because the movies would have been too good for us to cover.
Oh, we would have been talking about Linda Blair instead right now.
No, we'd be talking about Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh, right. Sure, that's a good point.
Right now would be wrapping up Body Rock.
I would rather be doing that.
Well, Body Rock does have a really good song in it.
So what I'm essentially saying is that next year, when I email you in November and say and give you like 15 choices of New Year's special,
I'm recusing myself from next year's choice.
Let's pick one that we all actually want to do.
That's fair.
Well, all right, then. John, you do Linda Blair. I'll do something.
Yeah, I'll do westerns because that's what you've been watching for the last year. And Andrew, you could do what are you like? Well, you like the Pitch Perfect series, so you could do that.
Why do I get nailed with that one?
Because that's what I remember when you were on.
I remember that, but Paul backed me up on that and said it was good, as I recall.
The first one's good.
Oh yeah, the second one, the third one, terrible. That's beside the point.
So Andrew, if you had to pick a genre or a film series, what would it be?
Well, that's a tough one. I go for all the superhero stuff. I'm a sucker for that shit.
So the superhero stuff.
So all 75 Marvel movies, basically.
See, I wouldn't mind doing.
You've got an hour.
Like I wouldn't mind doing the like before they were famous superhero films. So like before Marvel was Marvel, but they like do the Japanese Spider-Man film and the Howard the Duck and the Punisher and the David Hasselhoff Agent Fury one. Like I would do those movies. Right.
Or Cannonball Run. That would be my other option. 1 and 2.
Ooh.
So anybody got anything else to say? I feel like this episode has sapped my will to live. As I've had to recall these films, which...
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have anything else particularly to say about Stay Tuned. It's not an easy movie to talk about as such because, it's competent enough. It's okay.
I bet some people really like it though. You know.
I mean, I remember.
I bet they do.
When I was younger, I really liked it. I remember really enjoying it when I was a kid. Revisiting it as an adult who knows about film now, it doesn't quite hold up. Yeah, but I mean, It basically John Ritter. What we're proving here is that John Ritter makes movies for casual film fans,
right? And I think that with Stay Tuned, I wanted it to be one of those films that was sort of rediscovered. You know what I mean? Like one of those movies where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that coming out, and I remember that being a sort of a rental title that I was aware of and stuff like that.
And you know what actually would have been a better one to do in that case, because I feel it does fall under that category, is Mom and Dad Save the Planet, or whatever it's called. Mom and Dad Save the World.
Except John Ritter isn't in that.
I know he's not in it, but John Lovett is, and it's a really good movie, and it's super fucking funny.
Right.
Just my point. This is all I'm saying.
Right.
So next year, John Lovett.
I wish I'd watched First Blood now.
He's not in that either, though.
I know, but you know what?
movie.
He would have been. He'd have played a bloody good deputy in it.
Yeah, he would have done.
Not Rambo. He'd have been shit as Rambo.
No, but they would have cast him as Rambo, because apparently they would have cast him as anything. Like apparently, like John Ritter was such hot shit on TV that people were like, "We've got to find a way to put him in movies," and people just kept putting him in movies despite none of the movies doing well, and despite him being awful in all of them.
There's no logic with that. There's no logic. TV and movies at that point were so different. It's like in the 80s trying to make Doc Cotton a fucking sex symbol in Pretty Woman.
Although that I would watch.
I'd have the Blu-ray.
Yeah, or Peter Sallis in Death Wish.
That'd be amazing.
But no, I mean...
We should just do an episode of that, thinking which actors you wouldn't think should be good in a film. Mo, you go for one.
Wait, what?
So it's TV actors that you would think might be good in films, but actually wouldn't be. Is that what the question is?
That's it. It's a new game show. Roll with it.
TV actors who you think would be... Come back to me on this one. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, on a total side note, because I thought about it earlier. Isn't it weird that Ryan Reynolds sounds a lot like John Ritter? Did anybody else notice this, or was it only me?
He does a bit, yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, the tone of his voice, and it was in one movie in particular. I think it might have been...
Was it Deadpool?
Might have been Skin Deep.
Ryan Reynolds is funny, though.
Oh, he is.
Reynolds
Absolutely.
is funny, yeah.
But only one note funny, but he's still funny.
Yeah, he's playing that one note for pretty continuous.
Yes, he is. For all he's worth. No, I was trying to think... I was going to say George Clooney. Really good on TV, terrible in movies. But then became really good in movies in the 90s. But in the 80s, no.
Okay. Yeah, I thought of one. All right. Perfect example. Most of his TV work has been really, really fucking good, but his movies are not, especially him in his movies, are not good. Michael C. Hall.
Yes.
Mark
What
Harmon.
movies has he been in?
Mark Harmon.
Mark
Oh,
Harmon.
Mark Harmon's a great one too. Although I do like Summer School.
Summer School's all right, but in general, Harmon in movies is a wet fish. Like, there's nothing.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong.
Who else has tried movies and failed pretty... I mean, Pauly Shore.
But you know what? Pee Wee Herman never really took off, did he? Except when he was Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. Well, he was in Mystery Man. He's great in Mystery Man, Paul Rubens.
Yeah, Paul Rubens is one of those guys who's sort of suffering from the fact that you see him and you go, oh, that's Pee Wee. But
he's that guy who wanks off in a porn theater.
Not even going that far with it, but you know, he's one of those guys who's always suffered from being Pee Wee Herman. But anytime he's not Pee Wee Herman, he's fantastic. He's a great actor.
None of the actors in Seinfeld would be any good in movies, or have been any good in movies.
No.
Cast of Friends. I mean, Jennifer Aniston seems to do pretty good, but no one else really.
No. Kelsey Grammer. Ken
I don't know.
Barlow.
You don't like Periscope? Come on now.
That was the only one that came to my mind too.
And Expendables 3, he's like in the best Expendables
How the
movie.
fuck did he get cast for that?
Well, because they're all friends, aren't they? All the Republican actors are all pals with each other.
Good point.
Because they ran out of other people to cast in the Expendables movie.
But except Steven Seagal wanted a bigger part. Jackie Chan wanted to be the main part. So, like, a lot of the other people were being too demanding. So, But you could have at least had like Dalton or Pierce Brosnan or someone play that part other than Kelsey Grammer. Great.
Lorenzo fucking Lamis would have probably done it. Rubens.
Paul Rubens.
Oh, now see, that I would have liked.
It'd have got an extra star off me. It'd be up to 1 star.
Ricky Gervais is shit in films, generally.
Oh, he's terrible.
I'm trying to think who else has been on TV but does not translate to film.
Oh, and Andrew, to answer your question, though, Michael C. Hall was in that really shitty Gerard Butler film, Gamer.
Oh, I never saw it. He's
the main villain in that. He's fucking terrible.
Yeah, he should stick to TV. He's good TV.
He really should. He's great on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, look, this New Year's special, sadly, because I was so busy with unpacking and moving and work and general other things, did not quite have the written bits of...
It's a bit like a John Ritter movie.
It is.
It promises so much.
This podcast is...
It never fully reached its full potential.
Never ever
It's
fully
like we've
reached.
got the spirit of John Ritter with us.
Honestly, it should have been recorded in a different decade and hosted by a different host. I mean,
Oh, how right you are, Mo. How right you are. Still,
And none of us have got any resentment for it.
No.
Like Blake Edwards.
just can't be bothered. Literally. But I have to say, it's always fun talking to you guys no matter what. And let's do it again in another 12 months. And let's not do it before then, ever. I'm joking. I'm joking. Are there? Oh, here's one last question. Are there any film actors who'd be crap on TV?
Tons of them, I imagine.
Yeah, probably.
Oh.
yeah, that's a much bigger pool.
I would say, like Robert De Niro, not good on TV.
Well, it's hard to say. So many film actors are jumping to television shows just because they're, bigger budgets and a lot more freedom, longer forms.
That's an actor who's not very good on TV or in film. That's that guy who plays Bosch. What's his name? Like, fuck that guy. How did that guy get a TV show?
Who plays who?
The Bosch guy from Amazon Prime's Bosch. Like, how the fuck did he get a show?
I have no idea what that even is.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. It's just trying to find his name. Titus Welliver.
Now there's a name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, he's been in some bloody good films.
yeah.
And, oh, no, he's in Escape Plan 2. Is it shit?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, he's from New Haven.
He looks a bit like a poor man's. Well, it's like a poor man's Tom Selleck. He looks like he's missing a tash. Just a minute, look at him.
He also looks like he could be like the poor man's Tom Sizemore.
Yeah. He looks like it does look.
He looks like a poor man.
And that's the bad part when you're the poor man's Tom Sizemore.
When you're the poor man's poor man.
Yeah, he does look like a bit of Tom Sizemore fell off, and they've got or just go another one, and it's turned out a little bit wrong.
Man, now I want to hear how Titus Welliver says motherfucker. Because nobody says it is fucking Tom Sizemore. I don't care what anybody says. It's not Sam Jackson. It's Tom Sizemore who says motherfucker the best.
It's Titus Welliver.
Motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Why don't we do Tom Sizemore films next year?
It's actually not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea.
Well, except that...
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
All right, well, we can talk about all this.
Because it would all be 90s gangster and or like very low budget shot in the desert action movies or crime movies.
And what's wrong with that?
Oh, he's in a film called Barbie Rehab. This year he plays Dr. Tom.
Dr. Tom in Barbie Rehab. All right, dude. Next year we're doing Barbie Rehab.
Wow.
I think next year we should do Lance Henriksen or Tim Thomason.
Lance Henriksen's a pretty good call.
But we don't do any of the ones people know him for. We do all the fucking weird ones.
Fine. Next year we do Linda Hunt films.
Next year
we do two Teen Agent.
We do Titus Welliver films. We could do Richard Grieco movies if you want to do Teen Agent.
I do like Teen Agent.
Yeah,
you know what? Definitely seen it loads of times.
Great. Well, we should definitely pick someone that Doc has seen all of their films, so he doesn't actually have to put any effort into this.
With Richard Grieco in there.
That'd be perfect.
What other films has Richard Grieco been in? Let's have a look at that.
I bet it's not The Godfather.
So, Teen Agent, or If Looks Could Kill.
Yep.
He's in... Oh, this is just giving us all the popular ones. I want all the weird ones. Let's go back to the...
They all look pretty weird, mate.
Mobsters, he was in with...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
Christian Slater.
22 Jump Street, he's in it right at the end.
Yeah, I don't want that one.
I've seen that bit.
He's in The Demolitionist.
Playing Mad Dog Byrne.
Which also has lots of famous like horror and it's a Robert Kurtzman movie, so it has like cameos from lots of like famous horror people. Bruce Abbott, Peter Jason, Heather Langenkamp, Bruce Campbell is in there, Tom Savini is in there, Reggie Bannister is in there.
He plays
Richard Grieco a lot.
He plays Sinbad in a movie called Sinbad: The Battle of the Dark Knights. I wonder if he got in trouble for the blackface.
I don't know. Hopefully. Hopefully he got in trouble. That's why we've not seen him since. He's in Circuit Breaker, written and directed by that well-known auteur, Victoria Muspratt.
Wow.
He's yet another movie called Against the Law. I mean, how many movies are there called Against the Law? But he is in one with Nancy Allen, directed by Jim Wynorski.
Yeah, no, that's it. We're doing Richard Grieco next year.
Let's do Richard Grieco next year. It's been decided.
It's been decided.
So we have an entire year to watch these movies. That's plenty of time.
In fact,
It's not. I want 2 years.
Yeah. So you have to, from now on, we have to watch as many Richard Grieco movies as especially Fish Don't Blink from 2002.
Oh my God.
Directed by Chuck DeBus, who it stars Leah Thompson, Richard Grieco.
He's got 8 upcoming projects.
Yeah, and Will Wheaton in a film called Fish Don't Blink.
Look, the man is highly demanded. Everybody wants to work with him. He is a pleasure on set. Just an absolute pleasure to work with.
He comes in some days to do the blocking.
And not only that, whenever they hire him, they don't have to worry about craft services because he caters all of his movies.
Yeah.
Personally, he wakes up at 2:00 in the morning every day and starts cooking for the whole day. You should see the stuff he makes. Telling you.
You know what?
Chicken croquettes.
I'll watch Fish Don't Blink for next year.
All right.
He makes a damn fine duck confit. I don't know.
Where did you get this stuff from?
I don't know. My brain just broke. So
he's in a film called Evil Breed, The Legend of Sam Hain, with Jenna Jameson and Ginger Lynn.
It's not horror film, isn't it?
And Chasey Lane. Is it a horror movie or is it a porn film?
I was going to say, that definitely sounds
like a porn film.
Yeah. Taylor Hayes, Chasey Lane, Ginger Lynn, and Jenna Jameson, all in a quote-unquote horror film with Richard Grieco.
All right, so that's definitely one I'm going to watch for next.
That's on the list.
Yeah, definitely put that on the list.
On the list.
He works with a lot of writer-directors, so he likes the auteurs. This particular one was made by Christian Veal.
Christian Veal?
Yeah, V-I-E-L.
Oh.
Yeah. It was
gents, my laptop battery's about to die, so if I just disappear...
It's all good. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
So this time next year, we'll be talking about Richard Grieco and some porn stars in a horror movie that is bound to be awful. Look forward to that, and thanks ever so much for listening. Please, my guests of wonder, tell everyone where you can be found, starting with Andrew, because he's about to die.
I am about to pass away. You can find me at andrewbuckleyauthor.com, and all the links to social media are on there, too.
Mo Porne.
You can find me at andrewbuckley.com. You're
the one that got that domain.
You can find me, I don't know, I'm on Facebook. I'm around. I don't do Twitter much anymore, but find No Budget Nightmares at nobudgetpodcast.com. All the new episodes are also up on, it used to be called Dork Shelf, and now I think it's just called theshelf.com. I don't know, but they're all on nobudgetpodcast.com.
And
if I ever start doing the Alt Nerd Obsessive podcast again, you can find that on After Movie Diner.
Right. And Doc, are you still there?
I'm still here. I run the blog, the John Ritter Appreciation Society, where I cover every film with John Ritter's. Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, John Ritter Appreciate at.
He's at John Ritter on Twitter.
Yeah. And Claire, Doc's wife, where can people find you?
By Paul's side most of the time.
Yeah, she's by my side.
Yeah.
She's my woman.
Okay, excellent. And with that, let us end this episode. Let this episode come crashing to the ground. Thank you so much, gents. Until next year, goodbye. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Be full of greatness and full of good cheer. I don't want to hear all you hipsters sneer. Round here we love New Year. Oh, Christmas may be for families, and Easter's a big chocolate binge, and Halloween's a time to dress up, and Valentine is a time to get ye some minge. But New Year's a time for friends to get together and throw their hands and knees in the air and party into the wee small hours, drinking and loving with nary a care. So happy, happy New Year. Be full of friendship and all you hold dear, and in case before it was not made clear, around here we love New Year. I don't want to hear all you hipsters sneer, 'cause around here we love New Year. Well, your birthday is for you to be selfish, and an anniversary for you and your love. A holiday is a time for relaxation, or to have sex with a stranger in a warm furry glove. But New Year's the time for a party. I say it out with the old, and let's look ahead. And everyone gets a nice kiss at midnight, and the lucky few, they will end up in bed. So happy, happy New Year. Be full of laughter and be full of beer, and all of you naysayers talk out of your rear, 'cause round here we love New Year. And in case before it was not made clear. Around here we love New Year. And I don't want to hear all you hipsters sneer. Around here we love New Year. Oh yeah, around here we love New Year. You better believe it, round here. Happy New Year! Yeah.